I mean, are we preservation breeding or are we just breeding?
I mean, but like the people who are breeding like the designer dogs, the AKA mutts, no shade on that. I mean, if they do a good job and if they're taking care of their dogs, rock on, do what you do you. But they're not preserving anything. The people who are sacrificing to make sure that this breed is going to be appreciated for generations to come, those are the people that can wear the hat. They can say, you know, the breed owes me a debt of gratitude because I've gone to trouble to help that come along.
I need
And
my national breed club to give me like breeder of the year award or something. I need the piece of paper that says it.
like if you need a lot of attaboys, this is the wrong sport for you.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the Tack Box Podcast. I got fresh back from California. I got my brother Dale over here. How you doing, Dale?
Hey, Tyson, boy, I got so many people came over and were talking about the podcast and talking about, how much they enjoyed it and, what goofballs we were. No, it was great. So I told them, I said, well, like it, share it, keep it going. So we've got some California people out there that gave some really great feedback. So we
I
appreciate
don't
that.
I don't know if that's good or bad because California people are a little cuckoo, but it's if you're listening to our podcast, you got to be a little cuckoo anyway. So, hey,
That's right. That's
yeah,
right. You don't have to be crazy to be in dogs. It just helps.
it definitely does help.
Yeah,
So,
it helps. It helps.
how is the weather out there? I guess is it pretty similar to Oklahoma, or
It
was it a
really
lot?
was. It was actually colder.
Okay.
And yeah, it was a little colder, which doesn't bother me because, 50-degree cold is not really cold, like they're like, oh my God, the blankets, it's like, I'm like, this is wonderful. But yeah, no, it was nice. It's beautiful. They had a lot of rain and stuff, and I guess the part that I didn't really think about so much is because you get in your mind what some place is going to look like, and there's a lot of agriculture out there. A lot of I mean, you go through there's a lot of farmland, a lot of stuff out there, and man, kind of cool.
Where'd you fly into?
I was into Sacramento.
Oh, okay.
Very nice airport.
Yeah,
Very, very
I've flown
nice.
into LAX before, and that
That's
is pretty much
significantly
just what you
more of an
think.
airport.
Yeah,
Significantly
exactly.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was just like it was slightly more than Rapid City, but not anywhere in the same hemisphere as Denver. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Somewhere in between. Yeah, we decided that, Mother Nature decided to smack us this week. We were in the 50s on Saturday, Sunday, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're gonna be 30 degrees with 70-mile-an-hour winds. We're gonna send trampolines flying around. We're gonna,
Woo!
send anything that's loose outside. I mean, you let a dog outside and they take two steps and they're just like, yeah, I'm gonna blow away. I'm coming right back in,
Coming
and
in. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's kind of
your
where we're
show
at now.
season's kind of wrapped up for the year, isn't it?
Yeah, there's not anything even remotely close to local at this point for the rest of the year. It's like January now before, we could go to Minneapolis for a show and then we probably won't make that one because we got puppies due that weekend, same weekend.
Hmm.
So it's like, well, it'll be
Yeah.
first time mom having puppies. Like,
Sure.
yeah, it's a little more important than going to a show. So we probably won't even make
Yeah.
that show. And then, you know,
Right.
you just go from there. You got priorities sometimes. You got to figure out what's more important,
Priorities.
puppies or
That's
showing.
right. There you go. It's the breeder's biggest thing that they have to balance is how do you breed dogs and go to dog shows and all that stuff. I mean, trying to make it all work. It's a balancing act.
Yeah. And one of the things that I like that has come up to me, I've thought about it. My wife's brought it up. Other people talk about it a lot. Is like the roles of the dog. So it's like you have this young dog, and a lot of people are just like, I got to get out there and show it and champion it before I breed it. I got to make sure that it's a champion before I can breed this dog. And it's like I feel like that's a mindset because you don't have to champion it before you breed a dog. That's a choice. And when you get into a situation like this where it's like we're looking at next year And where we went to 50 shows this last year, we're not gonna be able to go to 50 next year because we're gonna be having a lot more puppies on the ground. So then, that just kind of coincides with what is the value of that dog to your kennel program, your breed, which can bring up the topic of what we're going to talk about this week, which would be being a preservation breeder. So,
Well, so part of what you said is exactly true, but it varies a little bit breed to breed. Some breeds, like, so take with a chin. If you breed a chin, she's going to be out of coat for 6 months after she whelps that litter and raises up. And before she comes back into coat, she's going to have another heat, and you're going to skip that heat. And she's going to about 2-3 months after that, she's going to start to look like she can show again. And depending as to how imperative it is for your dog to be in coat, and then of course drop coated dogs, all of that's a whole nother thing. But so when you're talking about the in coat to show, the girls, you really do have to kind of be strategic about it because they only have X number of heats that are during their breedable window, and you've got to decide how many of these do I want to skip. I mean, because the first few are the primo ones, and then then if you're lucky, you'll have some on the end. They're not as good. They're usually a little harder. So how much of this do you want to sacrifice to get ribbons? That's your trade-off, right? The boys have a big old long window when they can show, and when they, all that. You've got a long, long time on that. But the girls, smaller window.
yeah. I mean, and it's something that you have to think about all the time because it's like, I would love to take my bitch, and it's like, you have half the crowd like, "Oh, take your bitch and campaign her next year because she could do something," and it's like, but she's gonna be coming into season. And more important for me is building for the future. She needs to be bred. That's just my mindset. That
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, whenever you show a bitch as a special or a champion, you are sacrificing. You are making a big sacrifice. I mean, as a judge, I try to always. I think of that when people are specialing bitches. I think, wow, they must really believe in this bitch and they're really willing to make the sacrifice to show her, and that's pretty amazing. So, I mean, you know, if it's close, bitch specials, I mean, that's a lot of respect is due there because they are foregoing another part of their breeding career for that.
yeah.
It's truly a sacrifice. So back to the preservation breeder. That's was probably, I think, was one of our questions we got asked. What is a preservation breeder?
Well, yeah, and you hear it's like I don't feel like I don't ever f- I don't feel like you ever hear like a black lab or a golden retriever breeder be like, "Oh, we're preservation breeders," and talking about the breed and all that is just like, "Yeah, I'm a golden retriever breeder." And maybe I don't talk to them enough, but it seems like you hear more of the lower gene pooled breeds, Japanese chin, breeds like that that talk like very extravagant about I'm a preservation breeder. It's like they like it's a title that they have. So let's talk preservation breeder. What is it, first of all?
So it is it's a little manufactured term that has been spun. It's not especially old term, kind of like when they would call, say, farms were factory farms, or they called a breeding operation a puppy mill. Well, then they're kind of wanting to come up with their own little terminology to you for breeders, and something positive. And so there are breeds where there are very little, and I imagine anybody can feel as though they're a preservation breeder. I mean, there's really not like a requirement for it, like that you have to do this, this, and this, and then you too can be a preservation breeder. That's not really the case. It's just more of a mindset that I'm doing this so that this breed can be appreciated for future generations. Like, I'm not doing this because I'm making money. I'm not doing this. I'm breeding this and trying to keep the genes and the genetics going for my breed, which, because like when a breed gets down to a certain size, it becomes endangered of going extinct. It gets like, they get small enough with a limited resource enough. And then it's kind of like, wow, you could lose a set of dogs because of a health issue or something, or some sort of a catastrophe. And you go, that whole breed could like perish. And so those people that are working outside of the box to keep this going, those are probably truly the preservation breeders.
So what is kind of like it's basically a breed advocate, I would say, right? Like,
Right.
you're you're breeding you're breeding your dogs with the goal of preserving the breed. So your breed type, breed standard, you want to share
Health genetics, all of that.
genetics,
Yeah. And you
not
want that to
hoarding
go
all
on,
the good dogs to yourself because you want
not
it
keeping
to
all
be
the small
extended to
ones.
other
No,
people. Yeah, exactly. Not
exactly.
not keeping all the
Yeah.
small ones, using stud service. I would assume like being a stud service if people need a stud.
Yeah. I think anybody that goes out of their way to help somebody else breed. So it's like, and there's different levels of it. Like, okay, you know, maybe I will offer my dogs at stud for somebody. Maybe I don't even really want to, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's a big pain, but I'm going to do it because the breed needs it. It'll help this person. It'll move the genetics forward. It's a good thing for the breed, for this litter to happen. And I think that's really kind of the heart and mindset of the preservation breeder. They're like going, I could live without doing this litter, but I'm doing it because I have people that I want to have these dogs, or or I'm going to help this person do this. I'm going to give them a bitch so they can breed and they can keep going. And where, I think that people that are truly preservation breeders are not selfish. They're not selfish with their dogs. They're not selfish with their time. They're not, maybe they're volunteering for clubs. Maybe they're helping clubs put on shows. Maybe they're making their dogs available at Meet the Breed. Maybe they're just, answering questions, helping people with their puppies. These are all the hallmarks of people who like, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not particularly enjoying this, but I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And those are probably the people that in their heart of hearts are your true preservation breeders, putting aside their own personal goals to set for the breed at whole.
So if you just got, some random dogs and you're no rhyme or reason of why you're breeding them other than to make puppies. I mean, are we preservation breeding or are we just breeding? I mean, that we're just making puppies to try to sell and make money. Yeah.
Sure. And I mean, I'm not throwing any shade on that either, but I mean, but like the people who are breeding like the designer dogs, the AKA mutts, no shade on that. I mean, if they do a good job and if they're taking care of their dogs, rock on, do what you do you. But they're not preserving anything. They're not carrying on any great tradition. They're just raising some dogs to make some vacation money. And they're not actually like making a program go forward. The people who are sacrificing to make sure that this breed is going to be appreciated for generations to come, those are the people that are like, they can wear the hat. They can say, the breed owes me a debt of gratitude because I've gone to trouble to help that come along.
Hey, everybody. Sorry for the interruption, but I just need to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast network, wherever you're listening to this right now. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit a thumbs up button. Make sure you show us that you like this content, that we're doing good. Help us grow. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Now back to the show. I need
And
my National Breed Club to give me like Breeder of the Year award or something. I need the piece of paper that says it.
Yeah, lots of those accolades out there. So, like if you need a lot of attaboys, this is the wrong sport for you. Let me tell you, um, it's a tough room.
Yeah, because I mean those things don't last very long. But so I mean, really, you need to be passionate about the breed, right? Like, you want
Right.
other people to know about this breed, and there's multiple reasons. Like, I think there's other things that come with it too. You know, like when we're thinking Japanese chin, it's like you want to see Japanese chin placing in group because you want the breed itself to start getting more recognition on a higher level. Whether it's
Absolutely.
whether the breed is endangered and needs preserving or not, or it's, we have a huge gene pool. If you're not in group placements a lot, you want to help promote the breed and be supporting those group placements. That's fantastic for the breed and the sport in general.
We have to that's when breeds have more breeder judges, they have a higher appreciation at dog shows. So if you have I remember like at one time we had a lot of judges that did the toy group, and they came from Peak, Poodle, Pom, and Pug, the four P's, and those four breeds just dominated the group. And you never saw English choice manuals or Japanese chin or any of the little secondary breeds take off and win. And then you get people that are involved in shows that are getting out there, getting it seen, promoting them, and they start to become more competitive and get to be seen and get to, carry on. And so the breeder judges are a very important part for people because judging, which of course is enjoyable, but it's also a lot of work. And so as part of that is a bit of a preservation in itself, that to be able to donate your time and your efforts, because it's not the money that would make anybody go say, oh, I'm going to spend 7 hours on an airport, that type of thing. It's breed promotion, preservation, the sport. You're taking it on for the sport, and making sure someone who's there at that show is having their best day, and maybe having a moment where they're, that they, will carry them through with their dog. So it's like there's a lot of that. And I think that the good dog people do a pretty fair amount of self-sacrifice, whether that's videoing it live feed for people to see at home. That's a great thing. All of that stuff that you can share and make stuff happen, that moves the breed ahead, and that preserves interest. It builds interest, and maybe it'll bring that next person in. You never know who that next person. I mean, ever know who that next person that's going to be a real mover and shaker in the breed. And they come up and you go, oh, well, here, I thought they were an idiot. Who knew they're going to be next greatest thing? It can happen.
Yeah, it can happen. I
It
mean,
can happen.
you just never know. And so when you have a breed or any sort of breeding program, whether you're a preservation breeder or not, or consider yourself a preservation breeder, I think in my mind, I would automatically say, like, if we're a preservation breeder, I think we're a preservation breeder, we're probably breeding with a purpose. But how important would dog showing, how important are confirmation shows to that? Now, as far as like you're getting your breed out there, I mean, chin don't have huge entries at a lot of shows, so having nicer size entries is fantastic. But what about like titles? Like, how important are titles when it comes to like breeding, importance to your program, and things like that? If I'm a preservation breeder, am I breeding bitches that aren't champions? I mean, they have something to offer too, right?
All right, those are valid questions. And to me, before someone can say that they were a preservation breeder, that would mean that they were willing to sell people or give people dogs on open papers. Because if you're not willing to give someone a show dog or a breeding dog or something to show or breed in the breed, then then you're you're just a ribbon hoarder. You're not really a preservation breeder. You
When you're
got to
kind
be
of cutting
will
down the circle, right? It's like I just want all my dogs to be pets, so
Right.
I just
Yeah, I don't
go and
want
be
I don't
enjoyed by
wanna
the
yeah.
masses. And
Yeah, I mean, because those dogs are not gonna contribute to the breed. And then, so if you don't we're willing to do stud service, if you don't do that, you're not. I mean, I'm not saying good or bad, but you're not a preservation breeder because you're really not preserving that. But as far as it goes for how showing kind of falls into the aspect of breeding. There was always a kind of an old saying that one person they would say, well, they have too many of their own dogs to be a handler and too many clients to be a breeder. There is this little there is a limit to how far you can go on either side of that coin. As far as like you can't be playing in all the games at the same time. So for me, I think as though it's important that you do show to some degree because I think you need to see what other people have. You need to see what is going on in the breed. You need to see, yeah, I mean, you need to see whether or not are your dogs appealing to the people that are licensed to judge them. I mean, it's kind of a measure of quality, and I mean, the rankings and the titles are all good, but really and truly, I enjoy as a judge or as a breeder to go and I want to see what other people are showing. I'm like, and I might not even be my breed. I'll go look it up and go, who's producing that? Because that was really pretty. That kind of thing is kind of sees who's got it going on there. And I think that's when you go to the shows, you get to see that. Staying at home and being looking at online, really not the worst thing in the whole world, but the pictures you see online are seldom, an accurate depiction of what you're going to see in person, either better or worse. But I think there's going to some point and seeing and getting out there and taking your dogs out, I think is really kind of important. I think you need to know, do my dogs travel well? I mean, do my do my dogs hold up mentally in this circumstance? How am I raising them? Kind of keeping your foot in it. You don't have to go every weekend. And if you've got the ambition and the drive to show every dog you want it, then I say go for it. That's amazing. Me, I like to show what I get excited about. I might not want to show something. It might be nice enough to show, but like, you know, it's kind of gotta get me built up a little bit more than that. But if I think it's nice enough to show and to find my checkbook and make an entry, then I think it's got to be pretty nice. It's gonna be better than good.
Yeah,
But
and what
at
I would think, like when you've been showing for a long time, is just like, for me is like the first year of showing is just like I just want to be at dog shows. I'll show whatever I have. Like that's just what I
yeah,
want to do.
cool.
And then I feel like the more success you have, then it's like things that you see coming up is kind of just like we could probably finish that, yeah, but it doesn't get you nearly as excited as like, oh, look at this prospect. Like this is gonna be a nice dog. I'm super excited about this one. Like I
Right.
feel like it takes a little bit more to get excited when you have some experience. The longer you're in it, the more you've seen and know about the breed standard, which is super important for a preservation breeder. What are you preserving? Well, hopefully,
You're
hopefully you know
you're
the
you're
standard
very
enough to
sad.
be preserving the standard. You know.
Yep. Yep. And the health you've got to know what I mean, because you've got this whole test group study out because you have all these people that have your dogs. Some of them are pet people, some of them are breeder people. And so I mean, you can kind of like going, oh, this came up or that came up, or you keep all this information coming in to make better and better decisions. you know, because you're going to start knowing things about long-term health. You're going to know the long-term qualities, things that really are going to be important to your breed in future generations. And I mean, those are great things. I think that having that basis, I think you can it's kind of like being a researcher and you're going to have to do more research. So if you do more research with more test studies, you're going to have more information coming in and you're going to make better decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you gotta find what works. Like, if you just like, this mating might work, let's do it 10 times. So it might not work 10 times. It might work once, and you
Right?
do it 10 times, you might overdo it. So you gotta make sure that you're researching your breed, what you need to be doing, and even like you said, like making sure that you have dogs out there because you could be breeding a bunch of dogs that die at 3 years old. I mean, you gotta
Absolutely.
have that out there to know, because that's not really preserving the breed either, and that kinda goes back to the podcast we talked about with the COIs and knowing what you're putting out with COIs, and you get super tight line breeding and high COI. I mean, these dogs might live 3 years. You're not preserving anything. I mean, you're some breed type, but you also need to now do an outcross to make a stronger dog for the breed, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you've got to, when if the ultimate goal is just to have a dog you can win ribbons on, and the rest of the dogs in the litter are just like not healthy, good, strong dogs, then what do you have? You've got more ribbons. You're winning ribbons. I don't, like I say, again, the ribbon winners, not necessarily preserving any of the breeding. They're competitors. And you need them too, because this is the only sport where you have fanciers, you have breeders, you have professionals, and they're all competing together. And so, I mean, that brings in a whole different dynamic and every group has its own little advantage. Like if you don't breed and you just have a dog to show, you can go to the show every weekend, right? And you can spend all your time on that one dog, travel everywhere. If you're breeding and you're raising puppies, you're more limited as to where you can go and how often you can be gone. And I mean, it's harder, and you're going to divide up your time a little bit amongst your dogs, that kind of thing. And so there's pluses and minuses, however you're going to work. And like if you've got your whole family chipping in and pitching in, that's a huge plus. Whenever you got a team, that goes a long way in teamwork at this.
Oh, yeah. Well, anytime you're doing research, you need test subjects, you need people helping, you need all the things with it. It's like,
Are you calling your family test subjects?
I mean, yeah, pretty much, it's just like, "Here, come here, we got some research to do." But you can, so it's like, I can, in our situation, is like, I can be home whelping a litter and send my daughter with Japanese Chin to a dog show and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, where we're getting out, not only promoting our breed and being out there, but she's getting to show, we're getting our dogs in there, but we're also still home prioritizing this particular breeding for future generations as well. How does
Absolutely.
like what resources are out there for people in smaller breeds that say they want to be a preservation breeder? I mean, I would assume number one thing is like your breed club, your big breed club. How can you help? How can you be a part of that breed club and how can you help in that breed club? But beyond that, like
So,
what can people get
right.
involved with and do?
So some breed clubs are awesome and very super welcoming and a lot of fun, and others are not. And so if your breed club is a fun loving bunch of people that you want to go hang with, then that's a great start, right? But if not, well, then you're going to, then there's a lot. We're very fortunate because today with our social media, we can go ahead and meet people all over the world that have our breed, and have relationships as far as like and keeping in contact with that and being able, because now dog showing and breeding is a global activity. Before in our first years importing super rare, it was like happened only a couple times every few years, big deal. Now importing, even though it's a little weird right now, still done pretty often. And foreign dogs are, people do a lot of global stuff, and so that's another thing is keeping track with that. And there's a lot of stuff you can find out online. You can listen to great fun podcasts, a couple of South Dakota boys. You can get on there and see shows going everywhere. You can see everywhere we're showing someone's going live all the time. Like before, we just didn't know what was going on at shows until you got the results coming out, and there's like little tiny print. Now, gosh, you can click your phone and you can see if someone's picking their nose in ring 3 in Sacramento, and then you'll see if you click over there and you can see what's happening there. And you have all of it. Everybody knows what everything's doing. So it has made it much smaller, which a lot more information being shared. So it is available. Where we can
And
get
it
that.
and it's fun too, and it's like one of those, like I have a love hate relationship with technology, as I'm sure most people do, because it's like it's super beneficial. But when you have kids in this day and age, it's just like I fucking hate technology, like because it's they have no concept of like. You remember when we were kids, and it's like if you wanted to hang out with a friend, you had to walk down the road and like knock on their door and see if they were even home, and if they weren't grounded, and could come out and play. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
like
Sure.
now it's like they're in constant contact with text, and they can't figure out how to communicate. But one like, I have this app that I absolutely love because I have it filtered and set up for Japanese chin, so anytime there's a Japanese chin in a dog show at any superintendent, I can go on and look at the results in this one app, and it is, like, pretty much instant, so it's like, I can go look at every dog show, every Japanese chin showing this upcoming weekend. I can see that who's showing where, and see the results as they happen all in one
Super cool.
little app.
Yeah.
Super cool. So it's like when I can't be at the shows, I can see who's out showing
Hmm.
and how they're placing or how they did, and that's super beneficial if you're in a smaller breed. And I'm sure even in bigger breeds, like I know people in huge breeds that it's like they wanna know where somebody else is at that's in the breed, a bigger breeder that is competitive or their friends or
Sure.
anything like that. They wanna see where they're showing and how they're doing. So, the technology side of things has really been beneficial in that way, but not only that, your breed standard, I think, is super important to know what you're breeding. You wanna obviously maintain your type, and it goes like you said something earlier that I don't think a lot of people think about, but you said to see how your dog travels. How do they do? So there's a lot of breed type activities that aren't just on the appearance of the dog. So say you're breeding hunting dogs. Is a lot of that instinctual, or do you have to get out and train them to hunt? I would assume there's some natural abilities, right? When
There's
sometimes
some
they
that
have it or don't.
there's some natural abilities to a lot of that stuff, to performance dogs, to hunting dogs, to show dogs. But for me, like, like I don't want to start showing a dog that if it's not a good traveler and a good eater on the road and hold up well, yeah, I might bail out on that. I might not start.
If they're puking their guts out on the way to the show and then they won't eat out of their comfort zone, now they're dehydrated from puking the whole way and won't eat.
And translate that into a pet. So if I can't travel with it at a show, then other owners can't travel with it as a pet on vacation. So this dog is now something that they can't really take with them. So what makes a good show dog, a dog that is strong in mind, strong in body, a health, all of the things that make a good show dog make a great pet. And that same all of those characteristics. So, you really are killing two birds with one stone, moving to that whole goal. And one thing we were talking about, the standard is more than just the written word. It's the spirit and intent of the standard. Because standards are just done by people in clubs, and sometimes they're better than others, and sometimes they take a path and they go a direction, and standards can be misconstrued or can be twisted to agendas. It's like, this is what our dogs look like, so we're going to, case in point, Japanese chin. Up until one of the original standards that revisions that we had, there was no mention of eye white, a zero. No one talked about it. So then it got listed as, which is just the scleral tissue on the inside of the eyes. The eyes are supposed to be big and round. This scleral tissue in Cavaliers, Pugs, and Shih Tzu, that's always dark, matches the color of the pigment. Well, chin, sometimes it can be white. Sometimes it's darker, depending how much pigment they have. Well, then it got changed to a small amount of white is permissible. Okay, so we went from kind of like not talking about it, kind of like, to now it's permissible. Then we have another set of people come into the club at that time, and they have dogs with very extreme eyes, no pigment, lots of eye white. And all of a sudden, you see it get reinvented again, and we see the term look of astonishment. Like, well, I'm sitting here going, where the hell did that come from? Oh, it's been around for centuries. I'm like, no, No, it was not found on the Dead Sea Scrolls. Someone just like wrote this up like Wonder Bread, delightfully fresh, like they just made this up. And then all of a sudden it's a breed hallmark. Well, no. No, not really. Not really. It's a trait. It's a quality to the eye. It's an acceptable thing to the breed. It's in relation to the pigment, how much they or how little they have. It doesn't really make it's not but watching those standards change and watching the people in charge of them and the agendas they have as they're pushing that to reflect that they're dogs, then all of a sudden you go, oh, well, that's a breed hallmark. They can't be good if they have unless they have zero pigment and have big white, a third of their eyes are scleral tissue and it's all bright white. Now, that was never the intent of the breed.
So that can
And I think
change the breed itself a ton because
it's absolutely
50 years ago, maybe you weren't breeding with a bunch of eye white. And now here we are 50 years later where it's like, if they don't have eye white, like I've literally had judges tell me that they picked this dog because it has eye white over a dog that didn't, and it's like, okay.
and so it's kind of like when I've talked to people, I'll say, hey, sometimes the eye white can be eye white doesn't necessarily have to be white. It can be gray. It's just whatever color the scleral tissue is.
And in
And
fact, like in Japanese chin, like not that I've bred a whole ton, but I've never seen a puppy when a week their eyes have been open for a week. Never seen the eye white. It's always gray. It's always a
right,
darker color. It turns white
yeah,
as they age, like
yeah,
if it's gonna turn
yeah,
white. It's not there
yeah.
right when they're you know.
No, no, but that's preservation breeders have to keep a handle on their standard. And they have to go ahead and go, a bunch of us were like going, we hit the brakes. And right now, like Canada's they're off the rails. They're the cuckoo clock over there because they want tons of eye white. They're disqualifying tricolors. It's craziness because they had a small breed club and it was controlled by a certain faction and they got their own agenda. But for us, even when this was going down, we're like, no, we're holding true to the intent of our breed, and we're not changing the intent the intent of the chin, the dark, lustrous, big round eye, that expression and all that. We're not sacrificing it to get a bunch of eye whites so we can go win under people that are single issue voters. Like, no, we're not doing that. And we're going to stand our ground and get beat sometimes because we're going to show people that are easily swayed. But that's what a preservation is breeders doing is you're preserving the intent. You're preserving because you've been around your breed long enough to know what it's supposed to be. And even if it goes off the rails a little bit, you're there to get it back on and say, no, we're not going to extremes. We're not sacrificing our health for a fad. We're not going to, breed dogs that are vision impaired because we want them to be wall-eyed wonder puffs. No, we're not doing that. And so sometimes that's not a popular stance, but preservation breeders take it all the time.
So that brings up a good topic too. How do you wade through things? Say you're a preservation breeder and you live in Canada and you have Japanese chin, but up there tricolors aren't recognized as a color. So how do you wade through the different breed standards in different countries?
Well, so that's where if I was in Canada, I would join that club. I'd get people to join that club, would petition. I would bring, I would just, go in and, go forward. Things can happen and standards can change. And,
Is that up to the actual club as far as
that's the
like
parent club. The parent club
so the
set
Japanese Chin Club
controls
of
them,
Canada
which
could
was like,
approve
it's like,
tricolor?
there are like four people. It's
Here
like
we
four
are.
people. Four people. Yeah.
So we just
We
need
had a
to
dog win the
hammer them
Canadian
home.
National, and I think there was 5 dogs at the Canadian National. So, I mean, yeah, it wasn't like a big thing, but the point being, and of those 4 people, I don't know if any of them are actively breeding anymore. They just did their damage and then left. But I mean, that's where you have to, sit tight, you breed what you know is right, you promote what you think is the true interpretation of the standard. Because, the standard is like a constitution. A lot of people read it and come up with a different thing. And that's, and they'll say, and so a preservation breeder is like a constitutional scholar. They are into the deeper meaning of the breeding, the why. Why when we talk about the, like, well, let's just say with chin, because this is kind of our common ground here. We say, well, their feet can turn out 10 and 2. Why? Because their ribs are round. If the ribs aren't round, they're going to go straight. Well, that's why people who know and raise them go, okay, well, that one 10 and 2 means it's got round ribs. We know the intricacies of our breed. And preservation breeders know the things about their breed, and they're going to protect it from fads, and they're going to protect it from things that are potentially detrimental to them. And like I say, there's a lot of work, and sometimes you have to take a hard stance.
So and then in situations like we were kind of talking about this earlier, but when you look through your breed and you look at rankings and shows and you get to know the dogs in your breed and the dogs that are ranked and winning, and you have three really big players in your breed and they're all coming to the end of their career, and it's like we're tight enough into our breed to kind of know what's out there. Like, how scary is it to look at the future of the breed and be like, there's only one really good dog out there next year that we know of that is gonna be representing the breed, like, it's kinda scary, isn't it?
Well, that's where the preservation breeders are sitting there going, "Where do we launch this out next?" I mean, it's kind of like a fashion house or a brand or anything else. It's like, what are we going to do now that's better than we've done before, and is of the quality we've done before? I mean, it's like all of this stuff. I don't care what it is that you're going to have. What is there that you still like, that's still good about your dogs, and maybe brought in a new feature or new quality or some. It's exciting. It's exciting when you see I like to see at the beginning of each year, like, what's coming out, what's the new season gonna be, whether the telenovela docudrama of the dog show world. What does someone have out that's, and I think that's when I like judging, I like looking at the puppies and what's coming up and go, "Ooh, that could be a star. This one could be really good." And I feel like a talent scout. Who's the first one who found little Miley Cyrus? I mean, who saw it first? That kind of a thing.
Yeah, and then even, like, one of the things that's, like, super important to me is just, like, what are we doing for the future, not even of our breed, but the future breeders of our breed, like, I talk about it a lot with, like, the dog shows. I think it's so old. Everybody in it is so old. Like, what are we doing to help juniors stay engaged? Well, first of all, get into it, but stay engaged with it to where they want to continue in dog showing so we can keep it younger. And you look at, like, not, it's not a bash on you, but there's not very many young judges out there. And when I say young, I mean under like 65, like there's not a
Yeah,
lot.
no, no, no,
And
that's
then when
true.
you think of, you hear about more breeders retiring than you hear about new breeders breeding. And so it's like, if you're a retiring breeder, like, how are you helping the future breeders in your breed? Like, you might have left a mark on
Vivid.
the breed somehow, but what are you doing now to help the breeders, the
Well,
future
this is
breeders?
this is my take on it, and I could be wrong, but I think that the thing that I want to do is to tell people how they can be successful breeding. Because if you can be successful breeding and you can have good wins, maybe you'll make some money back on your return of your investment of your time and your effort, and you can get people to and want to go, hey, that wasn't a total loss. We could do this. We can afford to do this because we did this, and learn how to work it where they can afford to pay and play and get families involved. I mean, if you can get families involved, if you can get dad pulled in and get everybody on board with it, it's more than getting dressed up and running in a circle and getting ribbons. That's just a little ego trip. And that doesn't do much as far as like, breeding, breed preservation, breed promotion, the industry, the sport. That doesn't really do it. But if you can give someone a peek inside and say, hey, you can raise a fun litter of puppies, you can get your next show dog, you can put $7,000 in the kitty towards showing next year, you can go ahead and do these things, then I think you're doing them a favor. Whether it's answering their call with their puppies, whether it's helping them to not make the same mistakes you've already made, whether it's doing a podcast and talking about your insanity, helping people through it, because some people are getting embarrassed and shy. That's one thing. Like at one point you get where you go, there's no shame in my game. I have zero. We'll say we don't get embarrassed, that kind of thing, because you've done it so long. Everything has happened already once or twice. So those are the things that kind of separate out the true preservation breeders and the people that are bringing new people in, helping the people that are there be successful. That's the future. And I think that I see a lot of people working to help, a lot of clubs working to help, and they don't get like caught off on the weeds and start fighting over stupid shit. There's some good benefits to that, bringing people in.
Yeah, I think it sums up really well is like you want to preserve the breed and the standard to the breed, but you also want to preserve breeders in the breed. So you got to bring breeders in and help people breed to be able to be a preservation breeder, because you can't do it on your own. You're not the only breeder in the breed. There's got to be other people doing it really to preserve a breed. So, I mean, what happens if you're the only one hoarding all these dogs, not sharing everything, and, something comes in and wipes out your kennel, or heaven forbid, something happens to you, you get attacked by a pack of dogs while you're out
There you
running.
go. There you go.
It's like, how does the breed go on if
How does the breed go
everything
on?
is so dependent on you and your kennel?
Exactly. It's a bigger thing.
It's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. It's like
Exactly.
Mount Rushmore, Come on, people.
All right.
All
I think we beat it.
We beat it to death. Perfect. So, big Thanksgiving plans. Going anywhere? Do anything?
I'm not exactly certain what'll go. I think we'll probably meet for some friends or some later in the day Thanksgiving festivities. It looks like we got good weather, so maybe we'll get some puppies out on lead and start walking them around and get some, work on those ones, because we're home for a few weekends until we go to Orlando.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. Well, we're the same. We're the same type of scenario. So Meredith's grandma is going to have a Thanksgiving, and we're like, well, we'll come over in
Nice.
the morning, but we got puppies that we need to get home and work with, and it's kind of, when you're a preservation breeder, that's like that's just as
There you
important
go.
as getting together for Thanksgiving. Is like we got puppies that need worked on, and we got dog stuff to
Absolutely.
do. So that's just kind of one of our priorities. So that's what we're gonna
Something to be
do,
thankful
and
for.
try to stay warm and avoid the Black Friday madness of the stupidity that is human beings on Black Friday.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, if I see any good dog stuff for Black Friday, like I know Revival's got some Black Friday stuff on meds, so maybe people need to stock up on meds. I'll try to share it out on the Attack Box Podcast Facebook group,
Oh,
so you
good.
guys can,
Take advantage.
take advantage and stock up on some stuff. My progesterone machine finally hit the United States, so I should have my progesterone machine in the next week. So
Hot damn.
excited
You're
about
saying
that.
yeah, that's very exciting. We'll be looking for a picture of that bad boy.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Attack Box Podcast. I think we're like 350 subscribers, so we're climbing. It's a slow and steady pace, but we're just like the Volksmarch. We're gonna get up on Crazy Horse. We're gonna get there just a little
We're
bit at
gonna
a
get
time.
there.
So
All right, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you guys all next week. Have a good one.